is only part of the activist experience. Because for every leader that speaks out, there is a leader that implements. There is a leader that organizes. There's a leader that sometimes, sometimes silently, sometimes with smaller words, makes sure that vision actually takes place. That the speaking out is only the beginning of the ideas that create the better world, but that the work that gets done makes that idea happen. And it's for that reason that I stand before everyone today to recognize and celebrate someone who, in my community, has tirelessly worked to make sure that that vision, that articulation of a better world, happens. And that's Sharon Hoshida, who's our API Heritage Month recipient for excellence in public service. Ms. Hoshida started her career in photography and television, but she soon found what I would term very proudly as an activist's life, an organizer's life. She began working at UCSB, which for a community as small as Santa Barbara really is such an epicenter of what's happening in social change. And during her time at UCSB, she was not just important in starting activism important to Asian Americans, but for all faculty, staff, and students of color, and women students. She's worked, including as director for the UCSB Women's Center, and worked in bridge programs to help freshmen from underrepresented populations succeed in an important place like their four-year University of California experience. And she had established there was a fund established in her name called A Bridge Over Troubled Waters to provide emergency grants for students who are single parents at UCSB. In many communities, there's been a cabal of folks who control politics. And in our community, a generation ago, it was the folks called pescadores, just a sort of old white Republican guys, a bunch of them, even though their name was pescadores. It is Santa Barbara. We always paid homage to our Spanish and Mexican heritage. That changed. That changed with a group of activists called the Women's Political Committee, which Sharon has both worked in and led for over a decade. She served several terms as president. And the Women's Political Committee is so successful that in Santa Barbara, the majority of elected officials that are above the level of city council member are women. And that isn't true in many of the places in the world. And that definitely wasn't true before the advent of the Women's Political Committee. In addition, she's done incredible work with the Fund for Santa Barbara and the Women's Literary Festival. And she's now tackling what is really kind of a holy grail of activism in Santa Barbara, maybe one of the more difficult ones. I have to give you the context in Santa Barbara. In Santa Barbara, we really appreciate our independent bookstores. And we haven't had one in downtown since I was in high school. Sharon has now founded our first independent bookstore in downtown Santa Barbara in over 20 years. But I just have to tell you that, you know, real activism isn't very glamorous, right? Making speeches is really a very small portion of what a real activist should do. And the real measure of how well and how effective an activist is are they organizing other people, and are they willing to lead by example? And whenever I see a phone bank, whenever I see a group of people needing to be organized, I see Sharon. And I just want you to know that that is noticed, and that That's the kind of leadership that this state so desperately needs to implement the vision of a better world, a better life for us all. Sharon?